Hi, I'm Dr. David Dobson. Welcome to Conversations. We have all heard that quite stigma in society. It is the idea that technical and vocational education is just a backup plan, a second choice path for people who don't fit the traditional academic mold. Our guest today is here to dismantle that myth. He's going to show us why that skilled trades matter for entrepreneurship. He is currently an assistant professor at St. Francis Xavier University in Canada, holding a PhD in entrepreneurship and commercial studies. But long before he entered academia and spent over 20 years on the ground, building his own business as a plumber entrepreneur. Welcome to the show, Dr. Abede Mack.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Dr. Dobson.
Abid, you spent over 20 years working as a plumber entrepreneur before becoming a professor. What is one lesson from plumbing that you still use today?
I think for plumbing, what helps is the determination and persistence, hard work. Being a plumber, you have to, one of the things, you always have to kind of be innovative in your work as well, like try to pivot around circumstances. So I think all those different lessons kind of help me as a professor even to this day. Just work hard, don't give up. Despite obstacles, problems come your way, you just have to push it through. Yes.
Very good. Abid, you left high school without your diploma. Looking back, what was the turning point that made you realize that skilled trades could be a pathway to business and academia?
Well, for me, at the time when I did the trade as a plumber in school, high school, I didn't really want to do plumbing. I wanted to be a politician. My goal was to be a lawyer, a politician. I was always fascinated with politicians growing up as a young kid. So when I went to high school, I wasn't doing too well, social wise, family challenges, and I went into a really bad class, so didn't leave with anything. So when I left, I had good teachers, and one of my plumbing teachers was well, plumbing craft trade skill trades teachers were always the best, especially plumbing teacher. And I said, you know what? I didn't leave with anything. Let me try plumbing. I will give it a try in college. So I went to the college to do plumbing, one of the highest rated college in Trinidad at the time. And that's why I decided to do plumbing, right? Because I said, you know what, let me give it a try. I didn't get anything. At least let me try with plumbing and make a living for the time being because it seems like academics, at the time wasn't working. So I decided, you know what, let me just do something that I already started. So that's where I kind of like that's how the plumbing came into being.
Very nice story. Abid, from your experience as both a trade professional and an educator, why is the stigma surrounding vocational education wrong?
The stigma is it's wrong because people have a lot of misconceptions about the trades. People think that when you're in the trades, it's all about dirty jobs. You don't make money. And at least in North America, you make a good sum of money. Like where I'm from, like in the Caribbean and developing countries, you don't really make that much money doing a trade.
Mhm.
But I think the misconceptions are it's how people view labor. People view labor as something very bad. So we only see lawyers, doctors, engineers as noble. We don't see a plumber or a garbage collector or even a cleaner as something
Mm,
noble. And I think that's the I
mm,
think about the societal I think it's
mm,
societal perceptions.
mm,
I think that's the challenge because all jobs should be seen as labor,
mm,
as with dignity. And to me, it's all about life goals. Where do you want to see yourself? And I think no job, even plumbing or any trade, should never be looked down upon. So I think it's a societal perception that's kind of very hard to change.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Abdi, your work connects trade education and entrepreneurship. How does learning a trade shape a business mindset differently than a typical university business track?
Well, and when you have a trade, it's very easy to be an entrepreneur because you already have all these skills. The challenge with most tradespeople, they don't have the business acumen. So
Mm,
things about service and things about like, managing the business, managing people,
yeah,
they don't really have that. I think the advantage trade people have, they already have the expertise, they already have the
mm,
experience.
mm,
So that is where they would have the advantage over academic people.
mm,
In doing some research, we looked at vocational students and academic students, and what we noticed, vocational students were more driven with social factors.
mm,
So like role models
mm,
and mentoring. But academic people were more driven with experiential factors. So like they really wanted to get involved in experiences. So the difference with people in the trades, they already have these experiences and they can just become an entrepreneur very easy. It's just they need the skill set in terms of education so that they could more or less take the trade because a lot of times they have all these ideas and sometimes they
mm,
underprice themselves. They don't know how to talk to customers and service could be a challenge for them
yeah,
because they just have this raw understanding.
yeah,
Right. So in terms of practical skills, so I think they have an advantage because
mm,
they kind of like it's like they get a head start basically
yeah,
when you do a trade.
yeah, yeah. Abdi, your research looked at the training system in Germany. What does North America and the Caribbean need to adopt from their model to make the trades a respected career path?
Um, the what I liked about the German model, and I went to a conference this in me, and I had a German counterpart was actually challenging that system because she was saying basically the German model is good, but the challenge is that it limits some people from actually getting place in training.
Mm,
But I still think that the German model is a model to replicate. A lot of countries look at it.
mm,
I think what North America and the Caribbean could adopt really is really trying to structure training in a way that ensure that people partake of training both in school and in the industry. So, for example, in the dual system, participants go to work in the industry and then they go to school and a train like they go to school on a Friday and 4 days a week, Monday to Thursday, they would work with an employer. On Friday, they will do all the technical stuff, the knowledge and things that they're not exposed to in the field, they will come back in class. So I think what could happen, the Caribbean already have these schools. I think what we need to probably do in North America is really have it very structured so that when people enter training, they get exposed to actual industry training and they get exposure to the knowledge. Is
mm,
this really structure in it? Because in
mm,
Canada, you hear there's so much shortages for tradespeople, but at the same time, spots people can't get into train because employer could only take 10 people or 100 people. So I think the
mm,
government too has to do a lot more in terms of intervention, where the government allocate more funding, a bit more structured system with the schools and different stakeholders to really have when people exposed to plumbing or carpentry or welding or millwright, they have the requisite training that they could find a job to as well, or they could even create a job. So I think it's just a lack of structure. We need more structure, I think, in North
mm.
America and the Caribbean.
Yeah, it's a good point. Abdi, you wrote that for business owners in the trade, financial well-being is about more than just money. Beside the paycheck, what are the hidden perks of running a trade business that people working typically 9 to 5 jobs miss out on?
Well, one of the things that in that particular research and research has shown people have more autonomy. So, for example,
Mm,
a lot of mothers who want to work, they can't because there's limited flexibility when it comes to what time they start, what time they, and most times they have to drop their kid off for school for 8, pick them up at 2. So for them, it was more than money. They wanted more autonomy, more financial freedom. And some people, um, doing their own business allow them to go on vacations, allow them to do certain trips. They have more control over their time.
mm,
So and some people, while they get more money in conventional employment, they found doing their own business, time was a great factor for them.
mm,
Time to do things that they normally don't get to do. So I think entrepreneurship really provides that opportunity, especially trade, where you could have more control.
mm,
Um, in a typical 9 to 5, you don't really have that kind of control. And then to some people, some employers, not all employers treat everybody with respect and kindness. So
yeah,
some people want to have that control in terms of how people treat them. So, doing your own business, trade
yeah,
business is
yeah,
a good way to go.
yeah, 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 good point. Abdi, you have done research on making vocational education more inclusive, especially for marginalized students. When someone gets access to proper trade and business training, how does that transform their life?
Well, if somebody do like I'll give you one example. Like when I started doing plumbing, I moved from just being a plumber and then I decided to work on my own a part-time plumber entrepreneur, and I was able to do a lot more. You know,
Mm,
like you have access to more money, you could probably afford a vacation, you could afford different things that you wouldn't really get. So giving somebody the knowledge or trade, you learn to be a plumber, welder, millwright person, a carpenter, and then giving them the business training, because oftentimes what I've noticed, trade people who are in trades, sometimes they underestimate themselves. They I had a grandfather, he never made a profit. He used to always underprice. Right. So giving them the business knowledge helps them to price properly. They were able to not rob themselves and not rob the customer.
mm,
But also a lot of times these soft skills they lack. So communicating to a customer, sometimes they don't really have those kind of skills. And even though they are right, they have to kind of share with the customer alternatives, just simple things like communicating. And I think that is where business tradespeople need to have like entrepreneurial training or business training, because that gives them. And one of the things when I started doing my plumbing business, I what helped because I did a bachelor's degree and then I was doing my MBA, and that really changed things for me. I saw things
mm,
differently. I was
mm,
able to adopt more customer service approaches in terms of how I do things. And one of my clients used to say they really like how I work. One of the things I always used to I couldn't compete on price, but what
yeah,
I compete on service. So I used to always I had a rule: if I go to a place, I'll leave it cleaner than how it was. So
mm,
normally tradespeople tend to leave the place dirty, and my teacher always teach us to clean. I remember going to a client's house, and the client, when I finished, she was like, "Wow, I can't believe the place is so clean. I was expecting to go and clean this because she had a young baby and all that." So it's
yeah,
really about taking the knowledge you get from your
yeah,
training in
yeah,
business and really apply it in a real sense. So you
yeah,
just a simple thing like service.
yeah,
That's we treats people lack that a lot of times, service and
yeah,
pricing properly.
yeah,
Even things like marketing, how to market
yeah,
your business
yeah,
and different things like that. Those things really
yeah,
help
yeah,
tradespeople.
yeah. Yeah, beautifully said. Those small little value add things means a lot to customers. Abde, for listeners who feel disconnected from traditional school but love building things, what is your advice on entering the trades?
I would tell anyone, if I had my way, I would have allowed everyone in school from in grade, you'll have it grade 8 or grade 9 to learn a trade. I think everyone should learn a trade.
Mm,
And if somebody feeling disenchanted and they want to do the trades, I would say go ahead. There's a
mm,
lot of money to make in the trades, especially in Canada. There's a lot of fulfillment to it. There is a lot of, and it's not. I think people in the trades are actually way more. Um, to me, it was more difficult to learn a trade than to get a degree, an undergraduate degree, because in a trade you had to do a lot of maths, a lot of science, a lot of technology,
yeah,
a lot of theory, applied theory. You know, like the why things happen. So trades, the people have the perception trades people is we have a term in the career when we use the term dunce, which is a bad term that it's not really used in North America, meaning that you're not intelligent or you're not smart. But I think people who do the trades is super smart, because the kind of things you have to do in terms of to make those connections, apply all that.
yeah,
It's a lot. I don't know. It's a lot for me,
mm,
but I would say go for it. Apply
mm,
yourself. Even though it might be challenging at times. I know people look at the physical aspect of it, but I think we take everything in strides, and I think once you do that, you should be good.
yeah,
I would say pursue it with all your heart,
yeah,
give it your best, and you don't have to stay in trades forever, because one of the things with trades, people look at age. So you could do trades for like 15, 20 years, and then you can make a transition also. Even if you do trades and you only last 2 or 5 years, the knowledge you get,
mm,
you could apply it in the real world in a
yeah,
practical way, whether you run a business, whether you become a manager, whether you become a professional.
yeah,
So the skills you get is really good
yeah,
life skills you could really adapt in life. So I would
yeah.
say go for it.
Yeah, especially that problem solving skill, you know what I mean?
Yes,
Because every problem you get in your trade is not the same, and you always have to think creatively to resolve that issue and solve the
yes,
problem.
yes,
Wonderful
yes,
advice,
yes.
Abde. What would you say to a student who's hesitant to enter the trades because they're worried about what others might think?
I would say one of the things you have to do is you can't always study what people think. I think you should look at your passion. If your passion is driven by doing things, building things, and you want to make a career in the trades, then go for it, right? Speak to counselors, speak to people who would give you some good advice, do your own research. If your parents and they're hesitant and they're, reluctant, have a conversation with your parents, let them know this is something I want to do. I can give it a shot, give it my best, and then we can see what happens from there. So I think you should have an honest conversation with people around. Let them know this is something you really want to do,
Mm,
and let them, you can't force them to respect your decision, but at least,
mm,
you could let them know, and this is the direction you want to go. And I would say don't be hesitant, do it. There's a lot of room for growth. It's a career. I've
mm,
been up, and there's never a dull moment being a
mm.
plumber, being a carpenter, being a welder. And you learn the trade for a few years. You can become a contractor, you can become your own boss,
Yeah,
you have more autonomy,
yeah,
you can do things, you can be responsible for growth. One of the things I'm proud of is every time I go to my airport, I tell my kids, I tell everyone, I work here. If you look right up on the dome, I put in those sprinklers, I put in some of these toilets here, I put this here, I did this here, and I always, so that's something tangible I could always remember and show them, hey,
yeah,
I worked here, and that
yeah,
was probably more than 20, 15, 20 years
yeah,
ago. So,
yeah,
it's something to be proud of. You don't have to remain in it,
yeah,
but the skills you get is skills that
yeah,
you could,
yeah,
is a
yeah,
lifetime. Yeah.
yeah,
And also too, to add to that, one good thing too as well with trades, you could actually save a lot of money. So for example, if you
yeah.
become a plumber, a carpenter, a welder, and you could do things at home. So let's say you work in the trade for 5 years. When it's that I do all my plumbing at home, I still do little handy things. It saves because to hire sometimes a person, sometimes to get the person in time is a difficult one. And also you could save a lot of money. You could do a lot
Yeah.
of home renovations for yourself. So when I built my house in Trinidad, I saved a lot of money because I
Mm,
worked in the industry
yeah.
being a plumber. I was
Mm,
able to mix concrete. I was able to do minor
yeah.
repairs. I couldn't do the technical things like in
Yeah.
welding and
Yeah.
carpentry and
Yeah.
masonry, but I could have done a little minor things that,
Yeah.
could have a little handyman stuff. But plumbing, I did all the plumbing for myself. I saved myself tons of money.
Yeah.
Same thing in Canada
Yeah.
here. You could, when you learn a
Yeah.
trade, that could help you because
Yeah.
you don't have to call a plumber. You could do all the plumbing for yourself. You could do something for your neighbor, your family members.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I always tell people a trade is a win-win. You
Yeah.
can't go wrong with learning a trade. Yeah,
Very true. If you know some of the trade skill, you can definitely save a lot of money in your house because there's always things happening in your home.
always.
Abde, having lived the reality, earned your PhD, published the research, and now working as a university professor, what is next for you?
For me, I don't know. I just want to take it. I want to do more consultancy to really help like
Mm,
the Caribbean and developing countries. So I think that's one of the things I want to do because I want the research to not just go in a journal, and I really wanted to make impact. I really want the research to reach somewhere. So I want to probably do more grants, try to apply for more grants, some shirk, social science research grants, and try to make the research more impactful, where
mm,
we could measure students in the trades, or we could look at students in the trades to see,
mm,
if we introduce interventions that will help them in terms of entrepreneurship, if they might have a more greater inclination towards trades and so forth. So I think there's more to see for the research to really make sense, and that is where I'm kind of do try I through consultancy and through research grants. That's where I want to go in the future to make sure the research is having an impact, not just in a publication. You get a few citations and so forth, but I really want to see impact with the research. Yeah.
wonderful. Abdi, thank you for being such an inspiring example of what is possible when we reframe the skill traits. It has been a great pleasure having you on the show. We wish you all the best in your next chapter.
Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best as well.